Show.
Welcome back. You're listening to the Kate Daly Show, katedallyradio.com. All right. Always fascinating stuff to talk about, isn't there? And so many things about the world that, like Melissa said, we get presented with. We get this look and view of, and those views aren't always accurate. And I'm actually going to go on to say that hardly ever are they accurate because of the marketing and the lying that goes on around the globe about how people want us to view the world, the rest of the world. And so this is really interesting about Africa. We've got over 100,000 NGOs over there, at least, that are actually registered. And the thing is it went up a huge amount from the 90s to the mid 2000s, and it's insane how much money is taken and put through, laundromatted through, is that a word? Laundromatted through these organizations and who's taking money off the top, and it really doesn't go where it's supposed to. Right, Midwest Melissa?
Yeah, and I think if we were to have Magat Wade here, she would tell you she would like to bounce all of them out of Africa. That it's not a matter, it's beyond the matter of the money just doesn't go to the people who need it.
Mm-hmm.
Although that is a huge problem. We are actually just
problem.
lining the pockets
Right.
of rich Marxist dictators.
But it's not the biggest problem. Biggest problem
The
is
biggest problem is, and she asks this over and over in her book,
mm-hmm.
name someone that ever got rich by being on welfare.
Right. It's a mindset.
Welfare does not make you rich.
Mm-hmm.
It just keeps you impoverished on many levels.
I remember watching.
She says,
go ahead.
Well, her point is, if you want to, she said, number one, Africa, for the most part, does not have a middle class. There are places that do, but Africa does not have a middle class. And so the middle class is important. These are the people who actually are the workers. And she points out an old proverb that we all know, an old cliche, that a rising tide lifts all boats.
Mm-hmm.
If you can get the middle class established, the poor will be assisted. It is a better situation for the poor because everyone will rise.
Yeah.
A middle class that's creating jobs will create jobs for poor people who will then have a livelihood too.
They also don't have home ownership. And when you don't have, I remember seeing an interview with a guy that said, I want home ownership. Then I can leverage that so I can feed my new family, because he had just gotten married, new family, and that I can have pride in myself and I can actually make a living for myself. But I have no way to get there. I have no option because I don't have home ownership. And honestly, that's what sets us apart from third world countries, is the ability to own and leverage and make sure that we can actually, pull ourselves up if we're willing to take the risks and work hard. And he said, please get out of my city. Please get out of my city, because he was like, I want a way to be able to accomplish something. And he goes, and I want to be able to own something. And I was like, heartbreaking.
Well, before we leave this conversation, we have to have this conversation. How concerned are we about the direction we are moving
mm-hmm.
in the United States? And all the information that I have found shows a shrinking middle class here.
Yeah, they're after us.
Increasing government corruption. It's increasingly more difficult to start a business and run a business. Now, in Magat's world, in Senegal, doing business in the United States is a cakewalk.
Mm-hmm.
She said, to create an LLC in the United States takes 20 minutes and a computer.
Right.
She said in Senegal, it takes 9 months and a lot of bribes. But what direction are we moving? Are we moving toward more and more government regulation of everything?
Right.
Is the middle class increasing or decreasing? And when you bring up home ownership, we are seeing a significant decline in home ownership. And even like the younger generations are saying right now, I will never own a home because they're simply too expensive.
Yeah. Yeah.
And there are forces in the world that want them to think that.
Did she mention at all that the Bill Gates organizations of euthanasia going over and experimenting on Africans for all of their horrid kill shots?
She did not,
Okay.
because her message is about the solutions that Africa could have. And she has a very intriguing solution. She's not talking about she's not airing dirty laundry about every NGO that goes over there and does, dark
Horrid
deeds.
things.
But she is talking about solutions. How could Africa be? How could some of the countries that are starting to make those changes?
Yeah.
Rwanda is one of them. And, every time I think about Rwanda, the word that's associated in my mind is genocide.
Yeah.
But she says Rwanda, since that time, has really turned their economic situation around by creating free trade opportunities.
I'm having a hard time hearing you, Melissa. I'll have to switch out microphones there. And, what I find fascinating, too, is how we turn a blind eye to that and how we 100% do. It's like we don't want to know where they're doing the guinea pig services. We just people like their shots, I guess. There are some people that really love those shots, and their immune system, comes from a bottle and a needle, and they just have to get, they just absolutely 100% have to get those shots. So we don't really care how they're being guinea pigged. We don't care that they're targeting those individuals. They're targeting us now too, and have since the 50s, but in a big, big way, getting people sterilized, giving them shots that are just horrid. And it's so sad to watch that. But I can understand. She wasn't trying to point out those. She just wanted to go to talk about how to lift themselves up. Yeah.
Yeah, she's talking about solutions. And she's talking about what it would take to create an environment in Africa where free trade could flourish, where businesses could prosper. And she's looking at models like Singapore. She's looking at those kinds of things. I bet you didn't know this. I didn't know this. Did you know that South Korea has established a free trade city in Bangladesh?
No.
Who's even heard of it? And I'm not sure if it was her or somebody else I was reading, because I was looking at some of her proposals and found other information. But there's people in the world who are doing these crazy experiments quite successfully now with establishing what she calls like a free trade city.
Wow.
Where they build a city and they bring entrepreneurs who are willing to invest in that city and I know all of a sudden it started to feel like 15-minute cities to me. But she's talking about something else. She's talking about creating, like Hong Kong, an island of free trade that the rules and the laws of business are different in that location. And she said, once you get one that's successful, a second one will follow, and a third and a fourth. Because she is of the opinion, and this is also interesting, she's like, education is not necessarily the problem either. A lot of NGOs want to go over and provide education to people.
Yeah.
And she said, I can walk the streets in Senegal and find 15 people very easily that have advanced degrees in finance or accounting or all kinds of things that are selling chickens on the streets because there's no one to work for.
Jeez.
So she's talking about building a business infrastructure that is open and friendly and has the laws that allow business to flourish in order to begin to create a middle class, an entrepreneurial
and hopefully get us out of the picture, get our money out of the picture, get our tax dollars out of the picture, because obviously in 2024, looking back, it hasn't done what they said it would do for certain reasons. Be right back. Kate Daly Show.
Check out this week's edition of